actually managed to interact with Nova, our EVM. I'd be interested to hear that. But yeah, thanks for the intro, Emil.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll also be curious to see what the other people experience has been with our EVM domain. But for now, let's start with some news, with some exciting news. As we announced last time, we've released our automated faucet, and now if you use the Google form to request token from us, it's no longer valid, so it's now closed. Now everybody should be able to go to our Discord, and there is a separate channel available to every developer. And you can use the slash command in order to request tokens to your EVM compatible wallet. And at the moment, we're limiting to one request for every 24 hours. And like each time you make a request, you will get 0.2 tokens. So like you can get 0.2 tokens per day. Of course, that might not be enough if you're really like actively testing our EVM domain. So if you need more, please feel free to ping me in a chat, and we'll be happy to send you more tokens if necessary. And of course, all the documentation about the faucet and how to use it is available on in our documentation for developers. Jim, do you want to cover some of the issues that we've had with the faucet, just for transparency?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if anyone in the audience tried, but very recently the faucet, the Discord automated faucet, is a new thing. It's only been we only released it like 10 days ago, something like that. And what we found was that there was a permissions issue, that certain members of our community, certain members of our Discord server were unable to execute slash commands within the channel. We did notice that was happening. So I actually jumped in, and I was able to, because people were trying to, they were trying to execute the slash command, including their address. I was actually able to provide the tokens. So we did try and help. We're very pleased to say that the gremlins have been chased out of the building now, and it should work for everyone. But we do encourage everyone to raise any concerns like this if something's not working as expected. We're open to any feedback, and we are here. We're ready to act on any issues that you find, and indeed suggestions to improve the process. You can reach out to us in the Hash Developers channel here on Discord, or Emil or myself or any team member. You can feel free to ping us to let us know if something's not quite right. I'd also just like to chat. So I had a chat with one of the guys who requested tokens and provided a Substrate wallet, which won't work because the tokens are specifically used to deploy and execute contracts on our EVM domain. They're no use. The user was kind of thought that maybe they needed them for some other initiative that we're running. So they're no use to either the incentivized testnet or the upcoming stake wars we've got going on. They're purely for curious developers who want to deploy and execute contracts on our EVM domain Nova, which is a test network in the same way that the whole Gemini 3F that we're on at the moment, that's also a test network, obviously. And if there's a misconception that they will be useful and kind of you'll be able to advance or increase the amount of allocation you'll get as far as incentivized testnet goes, it doesn't work like that. Testnet rewards will be distributed proportional to the number of block and vote rewards a wallet receives, not the balance of TSSC that the wallet owns. And in addition, stake wars will be taking place on the consensus domain. So rather than it being EVM TSSC, it will be the native TSSC of the consensus chain, rather than the domain sat on top of it. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. But if it doesn't, feel free to ping your questions in the chat. And in fact, if you've got any questions at all about any of the ideas or the concepts that we're talking about, please do post your question in the chat or raise your hand, and you can come up on stage and we can chat them through. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about on the faucet, Emil.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jim. From time to time, we do see that some of the faucet commands are not going through, and I'm frequently checking the logs, and I see that people have been using Substrate wallets in order and tried to request tokens from the faucet. But as Jim mentioned, please use only EVM compatible wallet. Yeah, and now I would love to give you a quick demo on how do you can test and deploy a smart contract on our EVM domain. How do you connect to our EVM domain, and how do you use Faucet? So let me just share my screen, and I'll be happy to show that to you. Please let me know if you can see my screen. It should be on our documentation for the Remix IDE.
I can see that, Emil.
Okay, perfect. So we've tried to write our documentation in a way so every person who is not even familiar with the tools should be able to just go and follow along the guides, just copy the commands, and basically use our EVM domain. So for the sake of this demo, I'll be using Remix IDE, and that's a really exciting and a really cool tool for writing smart contracts and deploying smart contracts. So here I'll just copy the couple of examples we have in the documentation and pass it in a Remix IDE. So we'll be looking at the very simple counter contract, and it basically has only 3 functions. We can set a number, we can increment this number by 1, and we can decrement this number by 1. In order to compile the smart contract, we go to the Solidity compiler and just make sure to select the proper compiler version, which corresponds to the one that you initiated at the top of the file. So it should be 0.8.9. So I'll just go and select 0.8.9 and compile contract. If you see the screen compilation successful message, it means that it worked just fine. But since every deployment of the smart contract is associated with gas fees, it's really a good practice to test your contract locally before a deployment, just to make sure that everything works as you expect. And here we have a very simple test again for the same contract. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to set this number, the initial number, to 2. We're going to increment it by 1, and we will assert that the number has been increased by 1, and is going to be 3. And then we're going to try to decrement this number by 1, and we would expect it to go back to 2. In order to test, we can go to the last tab, select the contract, and just click on Run. And in a second, you will see the result of the test. Yay! So that means that our smart contract is indeed working as expected. So now we're ready for the deployment. For the deployment, I'll be using a MetaMask EVM compatible wallet. First, what you need to do is to connect to our RPC endpoint, where you can get it. So we can go to our developer documentation, go to the quick start, and there is an RPC endpoint that we're going to be using. So I'll just copy it from the documentation. I'll go to MetaMask, and I'll click on Add Network. I'll scroll to the bottom of the page, and I'll click on Add a Network manually. So in this case, we're going to call it Subspace EVM. I'll just paste the RPC URL from the documentation. I'll provide the chain ID, and as you notice that as soon as I start typing, you will see that you will see the ID popping up in the message. I'll just select it. And as for the symbol, we'll be using TSSC. And I'll click on Save. And the network has been added successfully. So if I switch to the EVM domain, you will see that I have some balance on the wallet, but initially you won't have any balance. So I'll just select another account, which at the moment doesn't have any TSSC associated with it. If I go and try to deploy the smart contract, I'll go back to the Remix, go to the deployment tab, and select an inject provider, and try to deploy it with an account which has 0 TSSC balance. Oops, I think I need to recompile my smart contract. All right, so now I have the contract available. If I try and deploy, you will see that I first get the gas estimation failed error. If I try to proceed and initiate the transaction, I'm not sure if you see the message from MetaMask popping up, but basically now I get a message that the gas estimate is higher than the amount that I have on the wallet, so I couldn't really deploy the smart contract. And in order to get some tokens, I'll just go back to MetaMask. I'll copy the wallet address. I go to our Discord, and every user with a developer role should have an access to this channel. And I'll use the / command. So I'll start typing /. I will select faucet, and I'll provide my EVM address.
Well, while we're waiting for the faucet, Emil, I just wanted to just clarify something. So first of all, I can see we can see your MetaMask popping up and disappearing almost immediately. We don't see what's going on in there. But the interesting thing is in Remix, you are selecting which account you're using to interact with the contract, if I'm understanding that correctly. So you switched which account from MetaMask. If you pop back there, so that account there, so that is the account that we are going to submit the transaction from. So that's the account that's going to be charged the gas to deploy the contract, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes, you're spot on, Jim. Yes, exactly.
So
maybe just to reiterate and make it more just to make you more familiar. So what EVM is it's the distributed state machine, and every change of the state requires some computational power, right? And so when you're deploying your smart contract, a node which actually does all the calculation should be rewarded, and that's what the gas fee is. And depending on how much computational power your smart contract needs, that will be how much gas you would pay to deploy the smart contract. Yeah, and as you mentioned, that's exactly right. So previously we did try to select and submit the smart contract using the account with 0 balance, but the transaction didn't go through simply because we don't have enough enough balance to cover the gas fees. And now we've requested some tokens from the faucet. So I do see that there is the transaction did go through correctly, and I should see 0.2 tokens on the balance. If I go to MetaMask, you will see, yes, indeed, there is 0.2 tokens available. And now for the same account on the Remix ID, the balance has also been updated. So now we should be able to just go ahead and deploy the smart contract. I'll click on confirm.
And while that's running, it's worth pointing out that the gas fee doesn't disappear, does it, Emil? It actually gets paid to someone to execute your transaction. And on the subspace domains, that is operators, who we've been talking about. We're kind of introducing the notion of the new network citizens being operators, and that they're running the execution, and they're actually earning that little nugget of gas fee of TSSC. That's who Emil is paying it to when he's executing the transaction. And operators, that's how they That's how they're incentivized. They get paid transaction fees. Very similar to gas on Ethereum.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. Dizel has. Oh, I thought you'd found the transaction. Sorry, Dizel. Yes, quite right.
Yeah. So as you can see, the contract was indeed deployed, and now we can interact with it. We can increment, decrement the number. So it's working as expected. So here is the full deployment cycle of how do you connect to our EVM domain, how do you request tokens from the faucet, and how can you write and test your smart contracts. All right, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'll give the floor back to you, Jim, if you want to talk about our contest.
Yeah, absolutely. So I dropped a link into the chat. But to the developer docs, it's just scrolled off the screen. But Emil's prepared some wonderful developer docs, which allow you to get up and running. Even if you've never touched blockchain programming previously, I encourage you to take a look through, because it's a real sort of from the ground up introduction to how it works. We don't allow price speculation, Dizel, just to warn you there. But those developer docs are eligible for our ongoing initiative. I'm just going to drop the link in the chat, which is for documentation updates. And here we go. Okay, so this is the details. And something interesting happened last month is that we didn't actually have a qualifying entry. So this, just to quickly recap, there's $250 in USDC up for grabs every month for the team judged best merged PR pull request to improve our documentation. So we've seen everything from typo corrections to Docker Compose file generators and everything in between, which is wonderful. And yeah, because we haven't given the prize away for September, it's actually rolled over. So it's actually $500 is up for grabs. So that's on the table this month. If you wanted to, if you felt like taking a stab at entering, check out the post, the forum post, and see if it's something that interests you. I know that $500 certainly interests me. It doesn't end there though, because Emil has very kindly created. Now I know this is probably not going to work. Let me just do it this way. Copy the URL. So Emil has created a number of good first issues in GitHub around our docs. So these are the kinds of things that we'd like to see. You don't have to use our suggestions, but you could take a look at those for inspiration. I fear that link may not work because the preview hasn't come through. And yeah, so take the time, check out the forum post in the chat, which has all the details of the contest. Dust off your thinking cap and consider how you could deliver a change that will catch our eye. And if you're not sure about coming up with an original idea, take a look through those good first issues. Have a browse through them and see if there's anything that speaks to you. Okay. Do we have any questions in the chat?
Yes, there is a question by William. And Jim, if you want to take it. So he asked first and done first served or divide. So how the bounty has been distributed.
Yeah, sure. So it is normally $250, and it is a best merged PR. There's a single winner. If you take a look at the T's and C's are attached in the forum post, but yeah, it's not divided, William. So if you is it something that interests you? You're going to have a go this month?
Yeah, the way it usually works, maybe just to add to what Jim mentioned, at the end of each month, we just compile all of the list of PR submitted this month. And we, as a team, have looked together to see what PR has been the best, which PR introduced the most significant change, and we just vote on it.
Absolutely. But there is always an outright winner.
Yes, for sure.
Have we had any other questions? Okay, so Dizel answered his own question. So has anyone in the audience executed a transaction on Nova? Anyone brave enough to have a go? Okay, maybe I should ask, is anyone planning to? Give us a thumbs up in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, according to our statistics, I think about 15 to 17 people used the faucet in the last week. So it should be, some people might have tried deploying the smart contracts on the VM domain.
Okay, I see Justin's giving it a
Yay,
crack.
Justin.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions sourced from elsewhere. So question one, can I use my TSSC that I farmed with Subspace, Pulsar or Advanced CLI to pay gas fees for the EVM domain? Did you want to take that one, Emil, or shall I?
Yeah, absolutely, I can take it. Yeah, unfortunately, at the moment, you won't be able to transfer your TSSC from Substrate-based wallet to EVM-compatible wallet. So the tokens that you farmed using Pulsar or Advanced CLI is not going to work. That being said, in the future, there will be a bridge. So in a couple of months from now, hopefully, you should be able to transfer your tokens your farm tokens from one domain to another. But at the moment, it's not supported. So the only way to get some TSSC is through our faucet.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate, there is a difference between the native TSSC that we're earning by farming on our substrate chain or our substrate-based subspace chain, and the coins that you get from the faucet. They are different. And as Emil said, there is a plan to be able to bridge them in the future. We've actually got big plans where there'll be also cross-chain messaging. I guess we should talk about that maybe. Is that you can think of the domain as sitting on top of the subspace, the main subspace chain. So if you're farming, you're on the subspace chain. If you're operating, you're on Nova, on the domain chain, and they are separate. They'll have a different, they're performing different functions. Those familiar with the modular stack will understand that we've kind of got we have consensus on the native chain, and we've got execution going on the domain chain. We've also obviously got data availability on the consensus chain, but yeah, we do fit roughly into, or actually, we kind of have more layers than other modular chains. But yeah, just the takeaway here is that they are different coins.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe while we're waiting for some other questions that might appear in the chat, yeah, there is another one we prepared. So if I develop and deploy some DApp on our EVM domain, will future Gemini 3 testnet resets will affect it? So, or is my smart contract or my DApp is going to stay alive even after those resets of the Gemini 3F? Would you like to address this, Jim?
Yeah. So unfortunately, if you deploy a DApp on Nova on Gemini 3F, and then we start a new network, Gemini 3G, for example, you would have to redeploy it. It won't persist across the network resets. This is a test net. The idea is that this is an opportunity to test how things work and ideally identify bugs and let us know so we can raise GitHub issues and attack them, get them fixed. But yeah, the long and the short of that is that they won't persist across network resets, unfortunately. But it should be relatively cheap. We hope that you don't just throw away your contracts after you've deployed them on one network. And obviously, because we're EVM compatible, all your tooling, existing contracts that run on Ethereum, for example, they are all compatible. So it should be relatively painless to redeploy them. Okay, so we've got Justin's asked us a common community question. What can we expect in regards to bounties or grants for EVM developers? Okay, that's very interesting. So we are planning a grants program. Who would have thought it? But they're actually quite complicated to set up. We've talked about bounties as being a kind of a halfway house. So if there is a project that that you think would drive the ecosystem forward, please do reach out to us and we can talk on an ad hoc basis. But yeah, great question, Justin. There will be a more formal grants structure coming out, but it's a while away yet, is what I can say there. However, we would consider a bounty if you come to us with a great idea that's got real value for the project.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see if there is any ideas flying in the air that our community will be able to deploy on the EVM domain. Yeah, I'd be very curious. All right, sounds like we don't have any other questions. So do you think we should wrap it up, Jim?
I think so. We'll give everyone their time back. Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes, thank you for joining us, everyone. And as we mentioned, we're always open to any questions, feedback. So feel free to ping us in the developers channel. Feel free to test our EVM domain, and we'll be very curious to hear what's your opinion on it and what your feedback is like. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.